we saw, I think, the waste and the very ineffective ways of doing things at the large high school. And we felt we could do it better ourselves. And there were several models that we looked at and saw how they worked, and we thought we could do that. Well, a traditional public school and probably a traditional charter school probably would all have principals, some administrative staff. And so here we don't. And so, again, we're making decisions, which is, it can be cumbersome at times. But when you struggle through it, you do feel better. I mean, we struggled through it, we talked about it, and then you really own it, as opposed to, and then we all have the responsibility to do it, as opposed to somebody telling you and then you choose to, as in a large school or maybe even a charter school that has an administrator, the administrator tells you what to do and then you choose to do it or not, follow through on it. Where here, we talked about it, we, grilled ourselves over it for several hours, and then we made a decision, and then we said, this is what we're going to do. So it's then our responsibility. In the beginning of the school year, long discussions about what it was that we wanted to do in terms of reading with our students, and developed a whole plan around that. We did weekly professional development on literacy strategies across the curriculum, so that it wasn't just the language arts or the social studies teacher, the English teacher that bore the brunt of that. The math teacher was learning literacy strategies. The science teacher was learning literacy strategies. And we had those professional discussions saying, yes, this is what we believe, this is what we should do. In many instances, people say, well, it comes from the top down. Principals say we're going to, our test scores are bad, so we're going to help teachers be better teachers, and this is what you're going to do. And then we're going to follow this method without consulting. And so that if you're not given autonomy, if you're not accepted as a professional, that you can make decisions based on what you know to be the best for your students, that doesn't work. And so here we have great discussions about, what our students need, what's best for them, what we know as professionals that our students will need, and how our curriculum should be developed around that. I mean, we meet every year when the budgets are what they call rolled out. We meet with our parents, our school governance council, we meet with the staff, we make major decisions about how we want to spend our money. Because money is such an issue, we decided we wanted the money to go back to our students, to be able to buy things for our students, to have more computer labs, to have more freedom in that sense. That was a big issue for us. In terms of curriculum with our students, our philosophical base, we decide what's going to be taught, how it's going to be taught, which I think is very important. There's still lots to do, but it's not overwhelming because you've got the bigger picture, you understand this. The budget this year I think was very easy for us. Didn't take us long to do at all because we've got that understanding now. But no, initially, no, we didn't. Decisions were made for me. I walked into my classroom, I made maybe some decisions about what I taught in the classroom, but there were so many decisions that were made for me, starting from the classroom all the way up to money decisions that I had no control over, and in many instances no say so in whatsoever. Speaking for me personally, it made such a difference in my life. I mean, I've always loved teaching. I was one of those people that I feel that I was born to be a teacher. But coming to this job every day, we'd walk in those first few years and say, wow, this is ours. This is what we created. And if we're successful, it's, what we're doing, how we're working with our students and our parents. And that personally was very fulfilling to me. I don't think it changed my teaching philosophy. I think it changed in it made me change the overall outlook at how I look at the school. I personally see greater responsibility on my part right now. I'm not just the teacher, but I also think about the school in general, where previously when I was in the large high school, I only thought just about my classroom and maybe sometimes about the school. But now I think about the whole school. I think about everybody and our entire responsibility to the school. We had met so much for 2 years prior to the school being open. And then when the school opened, there wasn't, everybody was so busy teaching, doing this, doing that. And then we realized we weren't meeting. So we meet on a weekly basis, and we have to do that to touch base. And we realized then when problems were happening, if we didn't meet, the problems would just become insurmountable. In something like this, you need to meet on a regular basis, and you need to talk about issues and confront people. Because if you let it go, then you lose your vision. You lose what you've worked for. You don't want that to happen. But at the large high school, you could always blame somebody else. Oh, it's the teacher down the hall. It's not me. I'm doing my job. And you wouldn't necessarily know whose fault it was. But here, in fact, when we started the school, we said right away, if we can't do this, if we can't, have our students reading on grade level, if we can't have them, take the math courses, if we can't do that, whose fault is it? There isn't anybody to turn to. It's us. And so I think we all feel very responsible, much more so than we ever did before. We've often said, you're really naked here. You can't go into a classroom and hide. Everything is open, and I think that's what happened like our first year when we had some staff members that, they just didn't seem to fit then, and they really stood out as like sore thumbs. Here, if you're not speaking up in a small group, it's noticed. So you can really have discussions where people are asking one another and really talking about, not just philosophy, but, what we really believe the students need and what we've learned in, university classes.